Hi, kindergarten. We're back for part 2 of The Honeymakers by Gail Gibbons. Last time we learned that a group of bees is called a colony. And here's a hive you can make out of a wood box, or there can be a hive right in a tree that the bees make on their own. We learned that there are 3 parts to the bee: the head, the thorax, and the abdomen. And we also learned that there are 3 types of bees, right? We learned that there's a queen bee. There's one queen bee in every colony who lives the longest. We learned that there are drone bees. Those are the boy bees. And we learned that there are worker bees, and those are the girl bees. And those are the only ones that have a stinger, the worker bees. Let's see what we can learn today about what a bee does when it's visiting a flower and how it helps us. Helps the bee and it helps us. Okay, here we go. About 6 weeks later, the wax-making bee becomes a guard bee and begins its outdoor life. Guard bees protect the hive. They chase away intruders with their stingers. They also alert the other bees by spreading a special scent. That's a smell. When there is danger, a guard bee will sometimes die in battle to protect the hive and its honey. Wow, the brave guard bees. So there they are, chasing off the intruder, this bear, that was probably coming around to sneak a taste of their honey. The worker bee is now about 3 weeks old. She is ready to become a forager bee. Her last job, but a very important one. Forager bees are the bees you see zipping from flower to flower. They collect sweet juices called nectar from the flowers for making honey. Oh, there's a bee collecting nectar, the sweet juice from the middle of a flower. That's a forager bee. At each flower, the forager bee collects nectar with her proboscis. She stores the nectar in a special part of her body called the crop, or the honey stomach. This stomach is separate from her other stomach. Wow, she has 2 stomachs. One regular stomach and one just for storing honey. As she goes from flower to flower, she comes in contact with a yellow powder called pollen. Some of the pollen is collected in little baskets formed by the special hairs on her hind legs. And here we have this labeled pollen basket. Do you see how there's this little bit of pollen collecting here on the hairs? That's called a pollen basket. Here's the proboscis, where she sucks up the nectar. As the forager bee collects nectar, she carries pollen from flower to flower. This is part of a process called pollination. When she has visited many flowers and her crop is full, she beelines back to her hive. Pollination. Pollination is the movement of pollen from the stamen, one part of the flower, to the stigma of the same kind of plant. This makes seeds grow into new plants. Bees help new plants to grow when they help the pollination process. Back inside the hive, the forager bee brings up or regurgitates the nectar. She then transfers it by tongue to a hive bee. The nectar is passed by tongue among the hive bees until some of its moisture is gone. Then a wax-making bee places the nectar in a honey cell, and there it continues to dry. See there? It's looking a little thicker than the nectar would. So they're storing it in those nice wax cells that they had been building. more and more nectar is added to the honey cell. House bees cluster over the cell and fan their wings to help evaporate even more of the moisture in the nectar. As the nectar loses water, it becomes thicker and thicker. Finally, wax-making bees cap or seal the cell with wax. Slowly, the nectar ripens into honey. Have you ever noticed how thick honey is? How it kind of pours down slow? That's because a lot of the water has been removed. And it's just nice, thick, sweet honey. And then they cap off that cell. Right here, they're putting wax over to seal it shut while it turns into honey. Here it says, honey is about 18% water. That's very little water. Dance of the honeybees. When forager bees return to their hive, they have a special way of telling the other forager bees of important discoveries, like a new location of flowers full of nectar and pollen. They do the dances of the bees. Here's one dance. It's called the circle dance. The forager honeybees circle in one direction, turn around, and circle back the other way. This dance tells the other forager bees to look for new flowers anywhere within 300 feet of their hive. Also, it's a way for the bees to help each other know where to find the nectar and flowers. Here's the wag-tail dance. Look how this dance looks a little bit different here. The dance tells the other forager honeybees that the flowers are farther than 300 feet away. The direction she dances while wagging her tail tells where the flowers are in relation to the sun. The number of wags per 15 seconds tells how far away the flowers are. Wow, those bees have a way of calculating just how far away those yummy, delicious flowers are. And they share that information with their other bee friends so they can go get some too. A forager honeybee can visit up to 10,000 flowers a day. All the nectar she collects in her entire life can make only about 1 teaspoon of honey. Imagine that. A whole lifetime of working to collect nectar and pollen to make honey. And in that whole lifetime, they can only make about 1 teaspoon of honey. Wow, that really helps me to know how precious every bit of honey is. Let's see, to make 1 pound of honey, it takes the nectar from over 1 million flowers. Also, different kinds of honey come from different kinds of flowers. Honeybees have always been valued for the honey they make. For thousands of years, people have stolen honey from wild beehives. People became beekeepers when they began to make their own hives. Some used hollow logs, others used clay pots, and later, in about 1500, European beekeepers started using upside-down basket hives called skeps. Then, in about 1850, the hanging movable frame beehive was invented. Here's the skep. Here's the hanging movable frame beehive. Here's the clay pot hive, the hollow log hive, and of course the wild hive, right inside of the tree. On top of the hill is a modern beehive. That's right here. The beehive is stacked in sections. In each section hang about 10 wooden frames where the bees build their honeycombs. To help the bees build their honeycombs faster, the beekeeper places wax foundations in the frames. So here is a foundation down here. They put wax on there to help those honeybees. It's time for the beekeepers to harvest the honey. The honeybees have had several months to build and fill the honeycombs. The colder the winter, the more food they will need. The beekeepers move slowly around the hive. They wear special clothes and use special equipment to protect themselves from getting stung. Look, here they wear these white coveralls and a helmet that has a veil with netting to keep the bees from being able to sting them. Back at home, in a shed, the beekeepers use a hot knife to cut the wax caps off of the honeycomb. Then the honeycomb frame is placed inside an extricator. It spins around at a high speed to remove the honey without breaking the honeycomb. The honey goes into a collecting tank. Squeeze all the honey out. Next, the honey is filtered through a screen and a cloth to remove small pieces of wax. Then the honey is packed in airtight jars. Sometimes beekeepers melt down old and damaged honeycombs to make beeswax candles and other things. The rest of the empty honeycomb frames are returned to the hive for the honeybees to refill again. For some beekeepers, honey making is a hobby. They use the honey themselves or give it away as gifts. Commercial beekeepers provide stores and shops with gleaming jars of their product to sell. Delicious, sweet honey from the Honeymakers. The end. So the next time you spread some honey on your toast, or the next time you take a delicious bite of an apple or make some lemonade like from my lemon tree, the beautiful lemons, make sure you take a moment and give some gratitude to the bees who worked their whole life long to help to create that, make it possible. Thank you, bees.